All right, welcome back, Vampire Choir subscribers, lovers of metal and dark music. Today what we're going to do is top 10 best death metal albums of all time. Today we're doing an updated list. My original upload on YouTube 11 years ago was top 10 best death metal albums of all time. And my list has not changed, in fact, that much. Today we're going to find out how things have been tweaked just a little bit. We're also going to give you some honorable mentions. So just a little bit of an extended video. Starting off with some extended plays. I didn't include these because they're not full-length albums. I love Incantation's Forsaken Morning of Angelic Anguish. Just a killer short EP. It's got a Death from Scream Bloody Gore cover song on it. The band is from Pennsylvania. Incantation's a classic band, and this EP just rules. One of my favorites ever. My favorite Carcass release is Tools of the Trade. I love the Heartwork album, Necroticism, and the early grindcore-ish material, but I think that Tools of the Trade is the best sounding Carcass. I love this EP, and it's one of my top of all time. If I had top EPs, it would be there. Along with this one, Benediction Dark as the Season. The band is from the center of England, and this album just rules. Overdriven, great vocal performance, guitars. I love the crushing riffs, and it's memorable. Now on to some full-length albums. Monstrosity, Imperial Doom was originally in my top 10, and now we're just going to give it as an honorable mention. Corpse Grinder on vocals, heavy guitars, drums, perfect mix of all the material, and the lead guitar is also incredible. One of my first albums of all time that I got as death metal, back when I was a teenager, is Unleash Shadows in the Deep. It was close to my top 10, but not included because it's just a bit bouncy, and there's just a few other albums that I think give a better album length. So, Unleashed, Vowels of Repugnance. I saw this tour with Deicide. The band had autographed my CD, and I really like this album here. The reason why I didn't make my top 10 is because it's so preposterous that some people might not even take it as a serious death metal album. But I think the band, like Jeremy Wagner had mentioned, is something that was brand new for the metal scene back in these days. Same area of the world is Oppressor, Solstice of Oppression. This is one of the finest technical death metal albums, along with Decapitated and others, but I would include this as close to being some of my top 10 of all time. This band was close to me as well. Went to their early shows. This one is specifically autographed to me. Obituary, The Incomplete, is in fact my favorite Obituary. A lot of people like Cause of Death. Slowly Rerot is amazing too, but I think Obituary, like some of the other Florida bands, third album was amazing. The Incomplete, Deicide's third album, Once Upon the Cross, was amazing. Morbid Angel's third album, Covenant, was amazing. Cannibal Corpse's third album, Tomb of the Mutilated, was amazing. This is one of the bands where third album was kind of like the culmination of their masterworks. I love The Incomplete. It's very easy to listen to the album front to back. All the riffs are memorable and killer. Tuned to D standard if you want to just pump up your guitar and play along with this album. Beautiful, dark cover. Tardy's vocals are just incredible. Close to being my top 10. Dying Fetus, Killing on Adrenaline. This band has really become popular in recent times, but I did see Dying Fetus way back in the 90s. I mean, they've been such an active band going at it for such a long time that they've become even more popular, but their earliest stuff is just top, absolutely top technical death metal. Killing on Adrenaline. Everybody knows Pierce from Within from Suffocation, and it could easily be in somebody's top 10. It's an honorable mention for me, along with their Effigy of the Forgotten album, pretty much the origins of slam death metal, you know, with the opening song, Legion of Inveracity. There's so many things to like about this album, and it's been mentioned a lot of times. Honorable mention for Transcend the Rubicon, for being memorable songs, excellent production all around, and guitar riffs. Just gotta love Transcend the Rubicon. Dan Seagrave art, just incredible album. This one was previously in my top 10, Utopia Banished from Napalm Death. And the only reason why I took it out of my top 10 is because, you know, gosh, they have a lot of associations with grindcore in the early days. And I was kind of like, I want the purest sort of death metal for my top 10. For Victory, between this and Fourth Crusade, is probably my favorite bolt thrower albums. Bolt thrower for Victory. This album, such memorable lyrics, memorable riffs, amazing performances by the band all around, and just incredible album. Could be anybody's top 10 on any given day. Fourth Crusade was their predecessor just before For Victory, and Fourth Crusade, with the album work, the lyrics, and memorable guitar riffs make it one of the most incredible death metal albums ever. Gorguts, Considered Dead. I love this album from a technical standpoint. Luke LeMay's voracious vocals. Guest performance by Glenn Benton is on here. I believe that Chris Barnes also did a guest vocal performance as well. The album artwork, the band image, everything about Considered Dead is just a top death metal. This album was previously in my top 10 list, and it's been usurped. We'll find out shortly why that was so. None So Vile by Cryptopsy. Lord Worm's vocals are the most intense death metal vocals, not to mention the intense bass and drums of this album, None So Vile. Almost nothing tops Cryptopsy's voraciousness, even more over than Pierced From Within. Their album, Blasphemy Made Flesh, could easily be someone's top death metal. Likewise, performance as None So Vile. No death metal should be complete without mentioning Sepultura. And the reason why Sepultura is not in my top 10 is because they're oftentimes associated with thrash metal, Brazilian death thrash, which was kind of the Brazilian tradition. And it is, Arise album, for example, is a beautiful example of top death metal, but also it could be included in people's top thrash as well. Morbid Visions is sometimes even close, along with Bestial Devastation, to a black metal. So just honorable mention to Sepultura, of course. Okay, and then two more honorable mentions, and we're going to get to the top 10. Cannibal Corpse. The reason why Cannibal Corpse is so popular and people have heard it even outside of death metal circles is because their albums are incredible. Absolutely amazing. Lyrics, first and foremost. Vocal performance. Memorable guitar riffs. And some of the heaviest music ever possible. I believe that on Tomb of the Mutilated, the last track, Beyond the Cemetery, is probably the heaviest death metal track of all time. Second might be Mortician, Zombie Apocalypse, just unbelievably heavy. Broken Hope is unbelievably heavy. Cannibal Corpse is top of all time. All right, top 10 death metal albums of all time. In number 10 position, I'm gonna go with Hypocrisy's Penetralia. And the reason why I go with Penetralia is because it's heavy, it's dark, it's fast, it's satanic, it's all things brutal. Number 9, Grave You'll Never See. A lot of people are fans of the first album, with the shirt I'm wearing, Into the Grave. But I think that You'll Never See, with their memorable songs, is my top 10 death metal albums of all time. Amazing riffs, and I love memorable lyrics. I love the song Brutally Deceased. It's a type of album where I would throw in this album for individual tracks or to listen to the entire album. Morbid, Way to Die, and Now and Forever, Christian Sanity, amazing songs. Next up, Gorguts, The Erosion of Sanity, was in my original top 10, and it remains in my top 10 because of the production, album art, and musicianship. I love Luke LeMay's guitar, the piano intro, the overall technicality, brutality. Gorguts, The Erosion of Sanity is a top 10 death metal of all time. For years, I've been upset that I didn't include Deicide, and now it's finally here. Number 7, top 10 death metal albums of all time is Deicide. Their self-titled debut in 1990 in Roadrunner Records. This album is the type of album where I can play it, I can sing along with the album, the entire length of the album. All the songs are catchy and memorable. I love the production, I love the hard-hittingness, I love everything about it. Number 6, top 10 death metal album of all time. Morbid Angel Covenant. This is one of the best-selling death metal albums of all time. It's widely known, and of course, everyone loves this album because of Pete the Feet Sandoval's drumming, because of David Vincent's vocals and lyrics, and because of Trey Azagthos's incredible guitar playing. Number 5, Sinister, Cross the Styx album. Band from Netherlands, and these Dutch masters are performing technical death metal. They're also doing just amazing vocal, catchy songs, Nuclear Blast records, amazing album art. Sinister, Cross the Styx, absolutely one of the top ever. I just love throwing this in, listen to it front to back. I love playing individual tracks off this album as well. Great songs are Doomed, Spiritual Immolation, Epoch of Denial, Perennial Mourning, Corridors to the Abyss, Sinister. Just blew me away seeing them live in Minneapolis, along with Cannibal Corpse, The Bleeding Tour. All right, number 4, death metal album of all time. Cannibal Corpse, Eaten Back to Life. And the reason why this is top death metal is because everything about it. The song titles, like Skull Full of Maggots, Shredded Humans, Put Them to Death, Bloody Chunks, the memorable lyrics, and guitar riffs. I like that the guitar riffs are memorable. It's my top 4 of all time. All right, number 3, top death metal album of all time, Entombed Left Hand Path. This album is completely top because it's got a perfect combination of morbid, heavy, and sick all at the same time. I think this album kind of perfects the heaviness and sick vocals and guitars at the same time. Just a gorgeous combination. Memorable songs, well-known band, amazing cover art, amazing layout. I mean, I could talk about this all day, but you guys know Left Hand Path, as you do Like an Ever-Flowing Stream from Dismember. I think this is the number 2 best death metal album of all time. I've got the American and the German editions of this album, and the very first song you could play for anybody who's never even heard death metal and they would like it. They'd be like, oh my God, this is so energetic and amazing. You could drive your car to this, you could go to the gym and work out with this thing. It's just a masterpiece, absolute masterpiece. And everybody who knows me knows that Scream Bloody Gore is the first and best death metal album of all time. Chuck Schuldiner had written all of the lyrics and guitar parts, he even played the bass guitar on this album. Chris Reifert, who later formed Autopsy, played the drums on it. It was just the duo who went into the studio and rounded out this masterpiece while they were teenagers. I love that picture of them as they're teenagers and recording this album. Scream Bloody Gore, it's actually the first death metal album I bought in my life, but doesn't mean that I'm biased. I think that the inclusion of the audible bass guitar and the low and the sick vocal, the lyrics, the song titles on Combat Records makes Death Scream Bloody Gore the best number 1 death metal album of all time. Thanks for watching our channel again. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.